Thessaloniki, summers have grown hotter, longer and more unbearable with each passing year.
In recent years, the climate has been a bit tough. It didn't used to be so uncomfortable at night. 15 or 20 years ago, it wasn't like this. Now, it's much more uncomfortable with the heat and humidity, making it harder to breathe. Things are getting tougher as the years go by.
Πρώτο πράγμα που αναφέρουμε στη ζέστη που λέμε.
The first thing we mention about the heat is that the entire system has changed so much due to climatic conditions that life is not just difficult, it has become almost unbearable.
Που όχι απλώς η ζωή είναι δύσκολη, σχεδόν γίνεται αφόρητη.
Almost. Because it's not just about daily life from the moment you wake up until night. Your whole life has to change.
Από το πρωί που θα ξυπνήσεις μέχρι και το βράδυ πρέπει να αλλάξει όλη η ζωή σου. Υποχρεωτικά είναι τα κλιματιστικά πλέον. Υποχρεωτικά.
Air conditioners now are a necessity. Necessarily, you can't live without it. However, the air conditioner can offer me something personally, to cool me down, but at the same time, it causes huge damage to the environment because it emits heat. In a city like Thessaloniki, with thousands and millions of them, they immediately raise the temperature without us realizing it.
Αμέσως και αυτά ανεβάζουν τη θερμοκρασία, χωρίς να το καταλαβαίνουν.
Τις δουλειές, όπως είπε ο κύριος Γιώργος, τις κάνω μετά τις 10.
As Mr. George said, I do them after 10 at night and sometimes until 1, 2, or 3. I do them because it's a bit cooler at night. There's no sun beating on the windows. And that helps me at least. Others might not find it helpful because you can't have the air conditioning on or anything else for many hours. That's also a problem.
Πολλές ώρες είναι και αυτό το πρόβλημα.
The difficulty we face more isn't just at night, because daytime activities are fewer due to age. The hard part is at night. You go to bed at night, and if you don't have air conditioning or a fan, you can't even sleep.
Και το βράδυ, αν δεν έχεις κλιματιστικό, αν δεν έχεις κάποιον ανεμιστήρα.
The sweat from the moment you lie down, for example, in bed, until the morning, you're drenched in sweat.
Παραδείγματος χάρη στο κρεβάτι, μέχρι το πρωί είσαι υδρωμένος. Εγώ θα μπορούσα να πω σε αυτό επάνω.
I could mention my brother, who lives in a rural area, specifically in a village.
Που εκεί, λόγω του περιβάλλοντος, λόγω του ότι...
Even though it's not in the city and you don't feel suffocated by the environment, it's still very difficult there. He experiences significant discomfort, and many times he almost reaches the point of heat stroke from the heat.
Και σχεδόν πολλές φορές φτάνει στο σημείο να έχει και θερμοπληξία από τη ζέστη.
Εγώ είμαι από μια μεριά.
On one hand, I see things that aren't very encouraging. But on the other hand, I'll tell you the truth. The kids who are studying now know a lot of things, and I believe they will find a way to bring change. We all need to help as citizens, that is, separately. For example, I can do this at my age to make a change.
Δηλαδή ξεχωριστά, ας πούμε, εγώ μπορώ να κάνω αυτό στην ηλικία μου, θα κάνω αυτό για να αλλάξει.
Do you feel better now that we're outside? Yes, better, of course. Of course, at least. Here there's oxygen. That's why we talk about oxygen. We're missing oxygen. It makes a huge difference. Inside the house and here, it's not the same, not at all.
Δεν είναι το ίδιο. Σε καμιά περίπτωση.
Και σε λίγο θα είναι καλύτερα. Ναι.
Πάντα αργά, γιατί και...
These hours are the best. Always late, because if you come earlier here, it's unbearably hot. Now that the sun is setting a bit, the rays are high and the sun doesn't hit directly. It's bearable. You sit like a human at least. You can't sit here any earlier. It's not possible.
Ούτε και εδώ να καθίσεις.
We may not know what the future holds, but we can only hope that with more awareness and action, the heat won't make our cities unlivable. As urban temperatures rise, it's crucial to create sustainable solutions for our cities. Projects like CityClim offer hope by providing real-time data and strategies to help citizens adapt to heat stress.